Welcome back to Osha Speaks. I want to recount a situation that happened a couple of months ago. As me and my family were driving back from Virginia Beach, we decided to safely enjoy some of the healing vibrations of the ocean and trying to get back to a sense of a normal life since the quarantine for the last year or so. It was a good experience, a good way to unrest and to rest and unwind. As we were coming back, I turned off a side road onto 95, heading back up north to Northern Virginia, and I ended up catching a flat. And something punctured the tire. I'm not sure what it was, and I didn't notice it, of course, as we were driving back, because we were on the road for a couple of minutes. And I was thankful that it happened when we turned off of the intersection off the side, going on to the main road, because it was really difficult to hold the car in place as we were turning. So I was fortunate that it happened at a good place. As we were, driving, went to the side, and this was my first time getting a flat tire in this vehicle that we have. And I was attempting to change the flat. I've done it several times before. And this is the first time that I actually had the spare tire that's inserted under the car, held in place by a wire apparatus or whatnot. So it took some time to understanding the mechanism and to release the tire. And mind you, this is Sunday. We were kind of in the mid southern side of Virginia, where things are not as racially diverse. It was dark. It was probably like 11:30, almost close to midnight, again on a Sunday. So I was, I got it off. I was putting the tire back on. Minimal light. The only light that we had was my wife's. We had a small flashlight and a light from her phone. And, I was working it, so things were going smooth. As I was putting the tire on, a Virginia Department of Transportation employee came and, he asked, do I need any help? And I asked him, I told him I already had the tire off, but if you could assist me by just putting some flares, just alerting the oncoming traffic, because it can be some bad accidents and things that happen on 95. So he stated that it was okay. I typically get this a lot when they see me wearing white. It is almost like I don't want to get dirty. I have to wear white every day, so it really wasn't much of a problem. So he said that, hey, I got it from here. You can just, step back and, I'll go ahead and finish up. And so, I let the gentleman do so. A good thing that he did come up, because he noticed that the spare tire was actually flat. It had a low tire pressure in there. And he brought that to attention and he, pumped it back up. Of course, he had the proper lighting and whatnot. And I was thankful that he came along and he was able to do so. Long story short, we put the spare on there. Got off 95 so we won't have to drive so fast, got on the side roads, and was able to get back to our town in Northern Virginia, and everything was smooth. So I sat there and I thought about that a couple of days ago when I was speaking to my children, is that you notice that with certain occupations, they never really go into extinction like that. Like there's always someone, as if it's a form of succession planting, that there's always someone to pick up a certain occupation, even though certain things are going to an extinction. For an example, I was looking at an advertisement by some Gullah Geechee basket weavers, and they were still keeping up the tradition today, even though some people may not choose to do so, but they have this calling to do something. There are always people to pick up something as things are progressing. And you can think about it, an individual won't make a whole lot of money, being a basket weaver, one may think, but they still feel magnetized to pick up and to continue a craft. And so as I was thinking about this VDOT worker, was that I was just so thankful that someone answered that call into public safety and to automotive, because if that person was not there, I probably would have been struggling a little bit more. I would not have noticed that the spare was flat or had low tire pressure. I probably would have drove a little bit further and then, still been down in the countryside of Virginia, and who knows what other events may have transpired from that effect. So I was really thankful that he continued that practice. And so this made me think about what things are called, what certain phrases that is typically called like your soul and your soul purpose and destiny in the West, and how does that fit in the Afrocentric phenomenology and also philosophy? Because there's a lot of things that do not equally translate. Everything has a purpose. Every plant, animal, mineral, every naturally created thing has a purpose and has an intention, even if we may not know it or not. I suppose looking at herbology or plants, even if individuals may not know the purpose yet, I believe that everything has a medicinal property, or it has some type of purpose to contribute to the whole. And when you think about this, sometimes this route can be a little bit challenging. Sometimes the people that are closest to you may be the ones that set you off a path. As I was listening to Baba Kola speak in one of our classes, and I believe this was an EFI studies class, and we were speaking about enemies. And enemies may not be what you think in the Western side, like an overtly oppositional, defiant kind of person. But an enemy can be someone who just may undermine some of your tasks, who may not have your best intentions, and maybe use their power of authority against you to set you off your path. And so it's that thing that stops you from creating your purpose. And once you think about it, a parent can be an enemy, your coworker can be an enemy, a relative may be an enemy, your spouse may be an enemy. And the fact that they may intentionally set you off your purpose, and sometimes people can only see as far as they can see life within themselves. So when somebody may say something like, oh, that's not possible, or you can't do it, oh, no, 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 they can't do it because they can't see it. And someone who has a limited scope of things cannot show you where to go. I believe this is why one of my old Kamau priestess used to say, and I believe she was a devotee of one of the more fiery Mteru, and she stated that, never pray for someone or never ask anybody to pray for you. And I thought, wow, sometimes she can, be really solar and aggressive in her delivery, but I got what she was talking about. It wasn't the sense that we shouldn't give people our well wishes, or we shouldn't give individuals, the good intentions of having all of the good things in life, but don't say specific things that may go against what somebody else belief system may be. And we're not talking about like ethical or moral behavior, but sometimes a relative may pray for you by stating that, oh, I wish that this person would just get a good government job, or we get something with good benefits, or I wish that, why don't you just be a veterinarian, or, why do you want to do that African religion stuff? There's no money in that. Why don't you just work in human resources and whatnot? So this person may be projecting their thought or their energy into your personal atmosphere, and that receptivity of their projective thoughts may come up as a feeling of insecurity, indecision, just being lost, because people are projecting their thoughts onto you and you're receiving that as if that's a thought of your own, and that can be very troublesome. Like Baba Kola told me, is that there's nothing that hasn't already existed, or any type of personal situation or any type of problem. For the most part, it has already happened, and it's been recorded in the different pipes, the invocation liturgy of the Orisha, and also in the Ese. So this brings up a couple of accounts that is mentioned in Obise. And in one of the stories, it speaks about Arumula traveling to Benin City. And Arumula was, I believe, I don't know if he was down on financial, had a hard time financially rather, or he was looking for some ways just to make money. And so with Arumula, he divined and got some good advice. He ended up getting a ladder and putting a ladder across the ocean. And of course, as you know, cowrie shells were the main sources of, was a primary source of currency in Yoruba land. And so he found an ingenious way to get the cowrie shells out of the ocean and find, easy ways to extract like those little tiny insects or bugs that are inside of those cowrie shells so that they won't sting you in the hand. So he was able to grab a whole lot of money in such an easy way. So he had this unique way of bringing riches and success to him. And other people may look at it, may think like, hey man, what are you doing? Or this is really odd, or you're doing something that's just, just different. But this is the way that he was able to obtain personal successes. Another story speaks of Obatala and the Eru. And so the Eru is something that is translated as slave in the West, but it's not necessarily like a someone held captive as in an indefinite detention like the transatlantic or the trans-Saharan slave trade. An Eru is somebody who could be captured as a prisoner of war. Rather than being executed, they could be indebted, like an indentured servant. They'll work off their debt, and then they'll be let go. But they were treated humanely. They weren't treated as blacks, or I guess you can call those a quote unquote Middle Easterners treated black people, maiming, rape, assault, and whatnot. They weren't treated in those gruesome ways, but they were treated in an ethical way. And this is actually captured in this essay. So the name of the diviners, and I'm paraphrasing here, states that the hard times that the owl is facing will not last forever. They'll look back at these times and laugh. So Obatala was again low on financial success, and he divined. And what came up was stating that when you go to the market, or somebody's going to come and try to sell you something, and it doesn't matter what it is that you got to buy it. And he took heed to that advice, and someone came to him selling him an Eru. And so this Eru was a crippled. He was handicapped. And Obatala remembered the divination, and it said that whatever it is, you gotta buy it. And so he went and bought it. And so he thought to himself, what in the world can I ask a crippled servant to do? I don't see the purpose in this. And so as he was going to his usual trips to the market, the Eru told him, when you go to the market, can you go and get some corn seeds, some corn kernels? And Obatala thought, what in the world do you need with corn kernels? More so, he expressed that to the Eru. He was like, what are you doing? Like, we don't need this. You can't plant at this time of the year. It's just a waste of time. And so the Eru was like, oh, you thought I was asking you. I'm telling you, go to the market and get me some corn kernels. The Eru, speaking to Obatala like that, you go and get me some kernels. And Obatala was like, okay. He went and got the kernels, and he gave it to the Eru. So the Eru went out into, to the yard, and he started planting these corn kernels. Again, Obatala asked, what are you doing? Like, I don't see the purpose. This is not the season to even grow anything. You're wasting time. Why are you doing this? And the Eru said, again, I'm not asking for permission. This is what I want to do. Basically, like, you mind your business. I'm going to do me. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to plant these corn kernels. So Obatala just stepped off and go, okay. Slowly after a while, the kernels started shooting up to, the corn stalks, and the Eru was out there carving these the corn stalks in this hatch-like kind of formation. And Obatala was just sitting, looking at it like, what in the world is this Eru doing? And slowly, as it was, growing and it was becoming more solidified, or fortified rather, the birds will fly into this hatch tag like kind of contraption. They'll go and try to pick off the corn, and it would squeeze its way through like a maze or whatnot. And when it will come out the other side, all of the feathers will fall on the ground. And so it was this year to where there was actually a shortage in parrot feathers. But seeing that they had the parrot feathers that the Eru was able to acquire, this is what made Obatala extremely rich. This is what made the Eru rich, and it was all because of the Eru's expression of just being unique. Is how he brought wealth to him. Let's do one more essay before we start to bring in, to bring the point home. This story comes from the 16 Kairi divination corpus, and this comes from the Odual Bar. And in this story, it speaks about a hunter, and this hunter was someone who was low on financial success. The hunter was out for several days and couldn't find any animals. On the way back, the hunter ended up finding 6 turtles. And he didn't think anything much of it and got the turtles and took it on home. As soon as the hunter came home, the wife was chastising the hunter, was stating, you've been out all this time and this is all you got to show for it. All you have is 6 turtles and you're wasting your time. I don't know what you're doing. I can't believe that you've just been gone for this long and this is all you got is 6 turtles. So not only did she express her discontent, but she was even more audacious to take the 6 turtles out of the backyard and just let them go. So everything was going smooth for the next couple of days, and the Oba stated that there was such a need for turtles that it doesn't matter what the price is, he or she will spend whatever they have to spend in order to ascertain these turtles. And someone told the Oba that this hunter had the turtles. And when they went to connect with the hunter, all of the turtles were gone because of what the wife did. Let's do one more story from Obar. This story is actually about Obar himself that was low on financial means, and it was a rough time. So Obar went to farms, and he had some things that I think he was looking for some produce which he didn't have, but he had to make do with what he had, like beans or something like that. So he sat and he ate the beans. It was a hunter who was coming through the forest, and the hunter went to the king of the forest, and he said, I'm having a tough time. I'm having a tough time. Like, what should I do for money? And so he gave him 6 pumpkins. He said, take these 6 pumpkins, go on about your business. And so the hunter and Obar end up meeting in the forest. And the hunter was hungry, and Obar shared what he had, even though Obar wasn't doing that better himself, but he decided to share with the hunter. And they had a good exchange. And so in return of what Obar shared with the hunter gave Obar 6 pumpkins. They parted and they went their separate ways. Obar, and this is a similar occurrence just as in the Ifa divination corpus about pumpkins, and with Obar as well. So Obar opened up these 6 pumpkins. 5 of them had trinkets and beads and these expensive items, and only 1 was a real pumpkin. So we took those seeds, planted it. Obar became rich overnight. So the hunter went back into the forest and spoke to the king of the forest. And he said, and the king of the forest was stating, what are you doing here? Like, how can I help you? It's like, I'm poor. I need help. I need some money. And the king of the forest stated, well, what did you do with those pumpkins that I gave you? And he said, he gave them to Obar. After that, the king of the forest stated, well, you'll never be rich again. I gave you what you had, and you lost it. Obar speaks about taking full advantage and appreciating what you have at this moment. And when this comes up for an individual, you have something extremely wealthy in your grasp, and do not let that go. It's something that already comes natural to you. And this is hidden esoterically in the first story about the hunter and the 6 turtles. Because again, the hunter had the turtles. It was a man who was a hunter, and the hunter had turtles. So the simile is that whatever it is that you want to do, you have this thing at your grasp. Hence, a turtles, because a hunter takes animals. I hope you're getting the simile that that I'm trying to illustrate here. There's something that you already have at your grasp, and you need to cherish that and guard that, and don't let anybody, hence the wife or someone who's close to you, to sabotage what you're doing or to convince you that what you're doing is insufficient. You have to hold on to that. Also, all of these stories speaks about the seriousness of poverty, and poverty is no joke. And I think that all too often here, something that I had to struggle with, I would have individuals who don't have the wealth of prosperity trying to convince you that money is evil. There's a lot of individuals from the from our Pan-African society, and who would state that, I'm not with this capitalism, or we don't need all of this, money is evil. And on the same notion, look out to the community who has the same ideology for financial support, and doing the GoFundMe's and things like that. And I think that there's some inconsistent philosophies here, as stated with Obara, stated with Obatala, stated with the Pipe of Olokun, stated in the essay Ifa that speaks about Olokun teaching Ogbe a lesson, Olokun and the fishermen. There are several Obara Meiji, where Bada had to defend himself, or show some self-advocacy when he was working for Aleta Mare, is that money is not the root of all evil. And we have to really understand that. And there's some essays that individuals have posted, and I can't examine the authenticity of it, but it would state that one was about Obatala, and he was coming through the forest, I'm paraphrasing here, and he ended up coming across, I think Obatala Najee, there was some woman that was on the ground, and and he told the people not to turn back or not to go back there. Individuals end up taking something from this person, and then they were cursed, and then they were using this to solidify that money is the root of all evil and money is evil, but not the fact that this person came and stole something off of a dead person, and they were conflating to just money in general. That's a Western view, and we got to stop that. So as we are here, wherever you are, throughout the diaspora, can you find a Orisha self-sustaining temple in your community? And I'm not talking about using like a school or any other place, but do we have our own facilities? Do we have our own schools? Do we have our own banks? Do we have our own K through 12 system? Do we have our own daycares? Do we have our own restaurants? Do we have our own textile and clothing places? We don't have that. But if we keep promoting the fact that money is evil, we'll forever be stuck and we'll forever be controlled. Do we have our own Orisha farms, our own Orisha grocery stores? No, we don't. And continuing to let other people exceed and pass us and still be subservient to them will not solve our problems and will forever be broke. I feel that there's certain deities that govern wealth. There's certain deities that can speak to governance. And I feel like whatever our role is, we have to show up in that role. And some information and some vibration is not valid because people are in that role to do so, right? This is Obatala's role. This is Ajay's role, Olokun's role. This is the roles of the people who are in authority. And all of the truth is in the pipes and the stories. So to go back, let's speak about our soul and our soul purpose and destiny is that, one, there's no such thing as destiny, right? Destiny is stating that no matter what events happen, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter how we act, is that this event has got to happen. And that is not true. There are several essays that speak about the interdependent role between your Ori Inú and then your ethical and moral character. And what you do can repel things away from you, just as was stated to me by the RA of Obatala. And the several different stories about Obatala states that there is a dependency on ethical and moral character, and it does not matter who you are or what you're seeking for. What you're seeking. The moment you step out of your character, you are repel Ire away from you, and they actually say that Ire will fly away from you like birds. So destiny is not a thing. So when we're speaking about a soul, your soul is, well, the close translation in our culture, it's your Ori Inú. Akan, your Akra, your Akrawa, Kemet, your Ka, your Kayet, your Selido, and Vodun. Every culture in Africa has this thing. You have an indwelling intelligence that guides all natural phenomena. And there is a big source of that, the Oponri, like the big source to where all the big collective Ori Inú. but each person, as they are born, they are given their own personal Ori Inú. So this Ori Inú that we have is going to guide us throughout life, and it guides us to wealth and money. But let's break this down a little bit more. And it's not just a hustle or get rich quick scheme or whatnot. And money and your Ori Inú are intricately tied. And let's look at some other cultures so I can really bring the point home. So if you look at a Ile Ori, your icon to your Ori Inú, is that you see that there are cowrie shells all around it, stating that there's some type of money or wealth that's inside of your head. And I think this is where they get the Ori Ire from, is that it speaks about your value, your property, your goods. And Akan, they say the same thing. And Kemet, they say the same thing, is that there's wealth and there's money that is tied to the head. But as written in the Madutu or the hieroglyphs, there's a vessel on top of one's head. So there is a mandate, an order, instructions, there is a purpose, there is something that you were told to do before you incarnated in the physical aspect about in regards to your specific instructions. So with that, you have two deities that follow you. You have your ancestral clan that follows you. So you have this unique configuration of energy because the Ori Inú it's a complex. And this unique configuration of energy shows into a unique you. And so this is how you uniquely bring the purpose that you said that you were going to do before you came here. So, and this also is my own opinion to how I don't believe when people say, it's a couple of things I don't believe. One is that I have orishas that are fighting over my head. Now, and there can be two just grossly different orishas. Like, I would say, let's say, for an example, I have Yemoja fighting over my head, and then I have Oya fighting over my head. Two just extremely different orishas, and I don't believe that. I think that we are given orisha before we come here, but then again, you may also have orisha that are tied to your matriclan and your patriclan. But this was already decided before we got here, and so when we're making these statements, we make isese seem like some haphazard, non-organized culture, and that's not true. My opinion was that before I got here, I have Obatala and Yemu that followed me here. And when I went and got initiated, that RA said the same thing when they divined for me. It's like, oh, you've been seeing Obatala and things of white in your dream. So some things that I feel that is right, I'm going through and I'm having my own empirical research and confirmation from what I think, what I experienced ritually, and then what is able to be confirmed in divination. So you had something that was confirmed with you before you got here, right? And this speaks to you what you were supposed to do. The other thing is that I don't believe that there is a bad Ori. And let me clarify that to be sure. Some folks will say, oh yeah, I must have selected a bad Ori when I got here. And there's several stories on what happens before we incarnate. You'll come, you'll divine. If you do your elbow, that's up to you. You cross this river. Some people's Ori Inú, or it gets washed away in the river, and then they come. Some are able to hold it and maintain it. But the thing is that I think there's a mistranslation between Ori Inú and then your Ori. So the Ori is just like the apex, the tallest point of anything. Like you have an Ori of a mountain, the Ori of a house, which is the roof, which is the apex. You have an Ori Inú, your inner head. So just as you have an Oju, your physical eyes, you have an Oju Inú, which is your spiritual eyes that deal with clairvoyance and other type of psychic phenomena. Your Ori Inú is this indwelling intelligence that is in all natural things. And it is an Orisha, hence why it has an icon. Just like how your ancestors are venerated the Egungun are venerated because they are an Orisha. They have an icon. There's ways to appropriate that. The Ori Inú is not some unorganized, wish-washy thing. It is an Orisha. We venerate it, we appropriate it. There's an icon for it. It's an Orisha. Orisas are rooted in good. They are the things that are on the right hand side. They are rooted in law. And I think that this is also illustrated if you look at the writings and the paintings in Kemet on how all the deities are sitting upon a block. And that block is Ma'at. That block is law. And Ma'at is worshipped as, Ma'at and Ma'at are worshipped as Odu and Yoruba. It's that law. It's that spiritual law. And they are founded in spiritual law and they're founded in ethics and morals. So there's no such thing as a bad Ori. There may be a bad head, but not an Ori Inú because that's a deity. To wrap it up for today is that your Ori Inú is one of the most important icons that you will ever have. This is your own personal deity, and this will guide you throughout life. It will guide you to your purpose. It is your first mind. It's your first head, and it may not come as crystal clear communication as someone's talking in your ear, but it's like a gravitation. It's like a pull. It's that first pull where you may think, okay, maybe I shouldn't go this route, or maybe I should do this. I want to be that. Maybe I should, invest with that individual. Maybe I should do this with my life. It's that first pull, and this is the thing that you should invoke on a daily basis before you even do anything else. Is to pray to your Ori Inú. And I would also challenge you to take it a step further, is to feed that Ori Inú every day. It doesn't take much. You got palm oil, the honey, palm oil, a little bit of alcohol. Just a little bit each day goes a long way to pull that deity closer to you, and you don't want to repel it, and you don't want it to slowly start disengaging due to neglect. In short, there's no such thing as destiny. You have a unique purpose that only you know. And the more that you propitiate and invoke your Ori Inú, the better your life will be, because you're put on the purpose of why you came here. And that, brothers and sisters, is the largest step towards wealth and money one could ever take. Even if it doesn't look profitable, even if it looks like this is not the most secure thing to do, I believe each of us in our heart know what we must do. And nothing and no one can get in the way of that. Learn the lessons from Odual Bar, learn the lessons from Arumula, learn the lessons from Obatala. Until next time, Iri Odabo.